Should you use a smartphone or a big camera in 2024 for your content creation purposes? We all know the smartphones we carry in our pockets are absolutely amazing when it comes to content creation, but cameras are still very widely used for professional usage. In this video, I'm gonna go over all of the pros and cons when shooting with each of these, and in the end, we'll conclude which of these two you should invest your hard-earned money into. So let's get started. Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In case you're new here, welcome. Super excited to have you. My name is Julian. I'm the creator of Smartphone Filmmaking Pro. On this channel, we talk about making better videos using our smartphone, using our professional camera, and we also share with you tips and tricks on how you can monetize those skills. So in case that's interesting for you, make sure you hit that subscribe button, as apparently over 90% of all of you guys watching these videos are not subscribed. So thank you very much. So just to give you a little bit of a background, just so that you know, I am a professional filmmaker, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an agency owner, and for our businesses we shoot, tons of different content, lots of social media content, all the way up to high production value, high quality, worldwide image campaigns. So these are the range that we're in, and we also obviously shoot a bunch of these YouTube videos and tutorials for our courses. So I do think that I have a pretty good understanding when it comes to using these different devices and what the pros and the cons are with each of these, as I have literally hundreds, thousands of hours, shot with both of these devices. All right, so let's get started with the first pro of shooting with a smartphone. And by the way, it does not matter if you're using an iPhone or an Android phone. And that is, a smartphone is super lightweight, compact, and just super easy to take with you. You literally, I can almost guarantee you that you always have your smartphone with you. And basically all of us do all of the time. So since it is super lightweight and small, we always carry it with us. And that means that we just capture a lot more shots with our smartphones compared to what we capture with our big cameras. So I can tell you by myself, I just capture a ton more stuff with my smartphone compared to with the big camera. And you might have heard the saying that the best camera is the one that you always carry with you. So I think that is a very, very big upside of, shooting with a smartphone. Another thing that I absolutely love when filming with my smartphone, and also, by the way, this also applies to capturing photos, that is the amazing image stabilization that you get with your smartphone. The technology and the software and the computing power that a smartphone has is just absolutely no comparison compared to a big camera. And just try to capture a walking shot with a smartphone and then do the same thing with a big camera. It is absolutely no comparison at all. Even if those cameras, this one is the R5C. This is one of the cameras that we're using for professional stuff. This does also have internal stabilization. And even if you pair that with a lens that has stabilization built in as well, it is still absolutely no comparison. If you film, for example, with an ultra wide angle lens with the iPhone 15 Pro, also 14 Pro, and also prior to that, it literally looks like you shot this with a gimbal. So that is super, super versatile again. And talking about versatility, a smartphone is super versatile. You have it always with you. You have 3 different lenses with the iPhone 15 Pro. You have even more with some of the Samsung options or Android options as a whole. You can also share the content directly to social media. You can edit it directly on the smartphone as well. So this is literally, a camera as you have it here, but it also is kind of like a computer, as you get to edit all of the stuff. You can share it, you can send it over into the world, you can upload it to YouTube. So the versatility that you get with a smartphone is unmatched in my opinion. And the last pro that I have for the smartphone is the overall cost. And you might say, like, Julian, this is $1,500. This is not cheap by any means. And I completely agree. But if you also consider that this basically is a computer and you can share it with social media, and you have all of the lenses built in and you have storage built in, and you literally can get started just using it that way. If you compare that to a big camera like this one, like the body alone with this battery grip is like, I don't know, $6,000. And obviously there are pros to the camera as well. And we'll talk about that just in a minute. But overall, when you're thinking about cost, also considering that you do need a smartphone anyways, it's probably a bit more affordable compared to going the route with, a bigger camera. Also, especially considering that all of the accessories are also a lot cheaper for smartphones compared to for the big camera. All right, so now that we've talked about all the pros for the smartphone, now let's move directly over to the big camera and let's talk about the pros of this big boy right here. And, the obvious difference and the obvious biggest difference for me personally is the overall image quality. Don't get me wrong, I love smartphones. You know, we started our career with smartphone filmmaking, so you know, I absolutely love shooting with a smartphone. But when it comes to the sheer quality and when it comes to the image quality itself, and you know how crispy the image is and how big the sensor is, the details that you get, it is still no comparison if you compare, you know, a smartphone to a big camera. To be honest, when it comes to comparing images, I think the difference is not that big. But when it comes to, you know, 4K videos with the R5C, you can even shoot 8K videos. Like the amount of details that you get, and overall, you know, it's just very, very good, and it's just no comparison. Especially if you're trying to shoot like commercials and high quality stuff, I would always lean over to the big camera, even though I know, and I made it myself, I also shot a bunch of commercials with my iPhone as well. And I'm just probably getting a bit ahead of myself, but in the end, it's just different tools for different projects. And then another pro with the big camera, besides the insane image quality, is also the versatility when it comes to adding lenses. So, you know, most DSLR style cameras or mirrorless cameras, they have an interchangeable lens mount. That means you can mount an ultra wide angle lens, and you can mount basically any lens all the way up to a 1600mm super telephoto lens, and you will find everything in between. So that is also super versatile. This is also somehow possible with add-on lenses for smartphones, but in the end, you're not, you know, attaching it directly to the sensor. You're just adding another layer to an already existing lens. It does still work. We have plenty of videos about that on the channel, and I still love using that, but I think still this is no comparison to how it works with a proper, you know, DSLR style camera. Before we will come to the cons of the smartphone and the big camera, just a very quick thing. We've just launched a completely free content creator foundations course in case you want to learn how to shoot great content, edit that content, how you can land your first client as a content creator, turn that into money, and also getting a few insights when it comes to growing on social media. Just check out the first link down below. Like I said, it's a completely free course, 17 tutorials in there. Just sign up and we'll send you your login information. Check it out. All right, but now let's come to the cons, and let's again start off with the smartphone. And one thing that I personally just miss a little bit when it comes to filming and taking photos with my smartphone, and that is there is almost no natural shallow depth of field. Obviously, if you move super close to your object, and you know, if you're using cinematic mode, you do get that shallow depth of field, and you know, it's getting so much better, especially with portrait photo mode. I think it's absolutely amazing at this point in stage of, you know, where we are currently, and it's only gonna get better for now. But I think if you compare the shots, you know, directly, you know, a shot with an iPhone, for example, and then shot with a professional camera, again, it's going back to the point of just having better image quality. I do think that it's still just no comparison when it comes to the natural shallow depth of field that you get with a big camera and that you don't get with a smartphone. Another thing that I also just noticed just recently, since it is summer and it's super hot outside, when you're shooting in a sunny environment and you're capturing lots of 4K 60 frames per second shots, the phones just get hot over the long run. You know, if you're filming just for a couple of shots and just for half an hour or so, it doesn't really matter. But once you're out there shooting for an hour straight, and maybe even longer, you do actually feel that the phone is just really hot. It burns through batteries, and it's just not super healthy for the phone itself. Nowhere comparing that to a bigger camera, this one right here, has a fan built in, so there is just no overheating as just the fans, you know, start spinning and it's just cooling itself. But that is basically it when it comes to the cons of shooting with a smartphone. In my opinion, the pros are just a lot stronger compared to the cons, and that's why, you know, Smartphone Filmmaking Pro got started in the first place, and that's why I still shoot more with my smartphone compared to with the big camera. But now let's move on to the cons of the big camera, and the first and very obvious one is it's just very, very big. It's a lot more expensive, and you know, traveling with a setup like this, also, you know, having a bunch of batteries with you, it's just no comparison to just having a smartphone with you. And to be honest, since we have been traveling so much recently and we're shooting a worldwide image campaign at the moment, you know, traveling with camera gear is an absolute nightmare, to be honest. Like at every security control, I always have to put out all of the cameras, all of the lenses, all of the batteries. Almost all the time I get scanned if I have some, I don't know, TNT or something like this with me, and it's just an absolute pain, to be honest. And comparing that to just recently, we have been on a vacation in Greece, and I just took my smartphone with you and a gimbal. Like the shots that I got still looked absolutely amazing, and you can see a YouTube video on the channel right here that we just shot on a smartphone on that trip. But yeah, just traveling with a big camera setup is just an absolute nightmare. And overall, also the weight, you know, if you add a big lens, if you add, you know, maybe a microphone to the top and so on, and also a 3-axis gimbal, like even though this is a fairly small camera setup and we do also have a bigger camera, it does get heavy quite quickly if you're shooting for a longer period of time. Whereas if you're shooting with a smartphone, you can basically shoot forever. Like the battery is gonna run out faster than your, strength is gonna run out. And then in my opinion, there are two more downsides. First up, we talked about that a little bit. It is quite expensive to invest into a camera like this. And then there is also quite a learning curve compared to just shooting with a smartphone. So what I'm always recommending is if you want to get started with content creation, with photography, with filmmaking, like just use the smartphone that you have. Use that to get used to capturing nice shots, learn rules of composition, learn the basics of content creation, and then land your first client. And once you've landed your first client, then you can invest that money into a bigger camera if you want to go that route, or if you just want to stick with your smartphone, then that's absolutely fine too, and you can still build a full-time business on just using a smartphone. But obviously you can just charge a lot more if you're using the big cameras as well, but that comes down to your own personal preference. In case you would like to learn how you can turn content creation into your full-time job, again, check out the first link down below. It's our free content creator foundations course. You can check it out down below. And in case you have not seen the video where I'm showing you step by step how to shoot cinematic videos with your smartphone, then click this video over there.